Oh, I've lost you.
It was just switching to recording. Now it's
Okay,
recording.
great. So, I wasn't actually going to record you. I decided there was no need. I don't want to show you your ass. That's not my intention. Um,
Oh, dude, you're way overconfident, mate. You will
no,
not show
I
my
don't want to.
ass.
That's not the intention. And that is still there because I realize I'm not fully arrived, and I believe you when you are. So I know that's there, but I'm aware of it. So that's not why I'm doing it. Someone asked me to record, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I
allow
don't
that.
mind.
Okay,
We can put it. Yeah, okay, maybe it's gonna be valuable for other people.
sure.
See YouTube televangelist speaking.
Okay, yeah, let's see. Um, so yeah, I think the discussion we were just having on Reddit, like just now, was good, and you were mentioning that how would I know the way to Rome? And Rome is your metaphor for the way to absolute enlightenment, no?
Well, yes, you used it. So yes, so I mean, I used it, but
Yeah.
then were speaking about France and things like that. Well, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't want
And
to dive in too much into
yes.
that, but so you've mentioned that you arrived with no guidance.
Right.
You
Well,
followed
I
your
mean,
intuition.
the partially, right? So kind of, I didn't have a live teacher. I didn't have a teacher whom I spoke to, and that's. I mean, from what I'm told by my students, it's a very different experience. Uh, but so, but I did sporadically throughout the path as there were, deepenings and unfoldings and insights and stuff. I did sporadically read the other teachers. Like I did read Adya sporadically. I did read Osho sporadically, usually on the topic that I've been struggling with or going through. So I did not have any direct interaction
Hmm.
with a teacher, but I read from time to
Okay.
time.
Hmm. Yes. But you would say, I guess, that ultimately you took yourself there. I mean,
Yes.
you okay. So my question is, why do you think that specifically me, but I also see it with other people, why do you think they are also not capable of making the same realization you made on your own?
Oh, you're absolutely capable.
Okay.
Why? Well, moreover, I cannot even help you make them directly.
Okay.
I mean, uh, it's like it's not even. I can't even tell you anything that you don't already know. You see,
Mhm.
it's like uh, if I tell you something that resonates, people use this word. It resonates. It means that on some level, you kind of already beginning to see it.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm sort of just confirming it for you. If I tell you something that flies completely over your head, it means that you're not seeing it, and there would be no way, there would be no way to argue. So but when I argue, when I push your buttons, and when I make you squirm, or like if we have a difficult conversation, and conversation is difficult, then you're going through some emotional experience, some reevaluation, some uncovering of hypocrisy and things like that, some uncovering of falsehoods, which in the long term will also kind of will allow to see some of the things, you see. So but yes, I mean, absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Nobody actually needs a teacher, really.
Great. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I would say I agree. So my question then is, so specifically in my case, again, I've seen it in other cases, which is why I'm doing this public, let's say. But specifically in my case, I remember one of the last times we talked one on one with me as your student was about meditation. And when I told you,
I remember,
yeah,
yes.
when I told
Yes.
you that meditation has actually not been my path, you seemed to imply that somehow I was fooling myself. So I'm glad that you planted that doubt in me. That was good for the reasons you just said. I'm glad you planted that doubt in me. I decided to follow my heart. I decided to not be your student anymore and see what happened when I didn't follow you. I actually tried meditation. I tried no meditation. Actually, I have come further without it, following my intuition.
So
So the fact that
tell me,
yes,
how do you like what do you mean when you say come further, and how do you evaluate
mhm,
whether you're further or not, and uh, kind of you came further without it, right? So you see, meditation is not even a method per se. I mean, meditation is like it's not possible to meditate in the completely enlightened state. So it's not even a method, you see. So it's just that you know you can view meditation in its simplest form. If it's not like some specific insight meditation, specific technique like vipassana, but just in its simplest form, just simple witnessing meditation. It's just your ability to lie down and do nothing for about an hour,
Sure.
right? So regardless of what other methods, with meditation, without meditation, you use, this ability is going to increase for you
Sure.
as you go down the path. So it is very difficult for me to see what you mean exactly. Like it was more productive without meditation. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, let me clarify.
Okay.
Well, you seem to think you said that either way you'll go further. But when I told you I don't want to meditate, you told me that will not take me further. And I did not find that to be true in my experience.
I remember this conversation. What I told you is that the reason you don't want to meditate is precisely because meditation uncovers some discomfort in you. That's what I told you. Mm-hmm. And actually, if I remember correctly, later you agreed. I never said that you will not be able to uncover this discomfort in you by other means. I just told you that the reason that when you were saying, oh, you know what, I decided that I don't want to meditate because it's all about freedom. So I don't want to meditate, which means it's my path. I don't want. And I said, no, you're just fooling yourself, right? The real reason you don't want to meditate is because it's uncomfortable. And then later you agreed with me. And what you do with this information is totally up to you, right? Because yes, it is about freedom. So you say, well, it's uncomfortable and I'll do other things. It's fine. But you can't trig like this, you can't trick me. You can't fool this around and say, oh no, there are paths which are like much, I just chose not to meditate because it's not the path or whatever. I'm not even sure what you're trying to say. My point is that you did not want to meditate at that time of your life. You chose not to meditate, not because it's your path or whatever, but because it was uncomfortable, which means that you want to sort of put it on hold a little bit, your spiritual progression or whatnot, right? It's not a testament that some other methods are better. It's that kind of the going got a little bit tough and you decided to take a break. That's what it is.
Interesting.
Because you see, not valuable is not the same as uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, let me put it to you this way. Well, if we're talking about authenticity as a way to move further down the path. If that's not what I want to do, then how would that be productive? And that's what I was trying. Perhaps we got lost in communication. What I'm trying to say is, it's not authentic for me to say, well, this guy said meditate, so that's what I'm going to do.
No, absolutely. You say absolutely. You can be absolutely honest with yourself. You see, you can say, meditation is not a practice I like. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Yes, I know that in the end, I will arrive to a point where it's completely comfortable for me to meditate and I can lie down and meditate for a long time without any discomfort whatsoever. I know that's the destination. But right now, it is not comfortable. It's not a practice I prefer. Maybe I prefer some other more intense kind of practices. Maybe there's some radical honesty, whatever, truthfulness, some other healing modalities. Maybe it's psychedelics. Maybe it's something else, right? But I kind of don't like, like Judd McKenna said, like that something like that he would die of boredom or whatever. Like he doesn't understand meditation at all. And fine, I don't have a problem with that, right? But you can't say that meditation is not productive, or you do it.
Well, it's not. It wasn't, Artem. It wasn't. I could see why because it's uncomfortable. I could see your point, but I'm saying it literally was the result. I don't know why. I see your point that, okay, I'm not ready for it. It's not comfortable. But literally, I tried to force myself to do it, and it was not productive
and that's what I told you on the phone. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it, right? All I'm saying is it's just like don't lie to yourself saying that you don't want to do it because it's not productive, right? That's all. Right, you don't want to do it because it's not productive on the spiritual path. It cannot be not productive on the spiritual path, right? So
Well,
you don't want to do it because you want to do something else, or you don't want to do it because you
well,
want to try the methods, or you don't want to do it because you want to live life, kind of instead of meditating, you want to go out and date girls, whatever. It's absolutely fine, but it doesn't mean that you have to pretend that you see. That's
mhm.
all. That's all I told you when we were speaking on the phone. And if I remember correctly, then later you kind of saw it and you said, yes, I mean, yeah, it is uncomfortable. That's the reason.
Yeah, I did, and then actually, it's been conflicting for me because I've done both ways.
Mm.
And I
But
later back.
by the way, tell me, it's interesting because my understanding is that we're not speaking about continuing the spiritual path versus just living and enjoying your life.
No, I'm still on it.
That's one balance, right? We can speak about that. But you told me something else. You said, well, I'm using other things. Like I have a different path. So then tell me what is this alternative?
Sure,
I'm just curious. I'm not
sure,
saying,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Well, it seems to be total intensity in whatever I'm doing. So if I
What?
wanna, yeah. So when I was speaking to you, and this may have just been a misunderstanding.
Huh?
But when I was speaking to you the day you were saying like, well, I'm not gonna tell you it's okay not to meditate. I see where you're coming from now, but in that moment, I was very in the moment, very hyped up, and I saw that. But this guy's telling me I need to. What I understood is this guy's saying you need to sit down because you're tricking yourself. I'm not saying that wasn't me, but I'm saying I felt that you were trying to push me somewhere that I wasn't ready to. I didn't.
It's
Okay.
okay. Yeah, yeah. Total intensity in what you're doing is kind of some people might even call it meditation everywhere. Because meditation is intensity, because that's sort of even also one of the reasons that meditation is uncomfortable, right? Is because we are running away from intensity in the separated state. The ego wants to always run away from intensity, and as you just lie down, especially if you had an opening, an awakening, a spiritual experience, and you're witnessing. So oftentimes when you lie down and meditate, you get all sorts of sensations that are uncomfortable precisely because they're intense, right? So total intensity in whatever it is you're doing during daytime, with kind of it is a wonderful practice, and it can help your unfolding just as much as anything else. It's wonderful. If you found it's working, it's great. It's
Yeah. That.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. That. I think that's really what it was, and I am seeing your point. Okay, meditation's uncomfortable because it brings things up,
Also
but
because it's intense, yes.
yeah.
Also because it brings up it
Yeah.
also brings up suppressed intensity. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I guess the conflict was, I'm trying to express it, was just that, well, I need to be doing that when actually
Yes,
the
yes,
authentic just being
yes,
intense was actually
yes,
working for me. And then I was in my
yes,
head going, well, why don't you meditate? You need to meditate. You need to meditate. And that
yes,
was less productive than just being whatever I was.
yes. So that's very common. You see, I wasn't actually saying that. I was just helping you to see where you were tricking yourself. But because you had this impression that I was giving you precise instructions that you must meditate, and you rebelled against that, right? And yeah, so it's kind of, it can get messy, because ego has its own agenda. Always, it wants, like, every little lie you want to hide from yourself all the time. So we oftentimes misinterpret other people, and we think that they want something else from us. Like, for example, when I was also going through unfolding, and there was a lot of suffering, and I was sort of learning to be independent from people and stuff like that, I used to see uh, a lot of kind of people, teaching me, telling me how to live my life, in a lot of things that actually weren't that at all, you know, kind of. And I would be like, snap, and I would be like, stop telling me how to live my life, or this is your ego, you tell me how to live my life. But that was kind of, my weak point. So you tend to see things oftentimes that are not there if you have some sort of insecurity about it, or if there's a little lie about it which you're hiding from yourself, you see. But I wasn't saying that you must meditate. And also, by the way, remember that the conversation was in the context of you ego fighting with John and being too cruel and callous to him, in my estimation, right? And I wanted to make sure that ego fight for you isn't just an exercise in cruelty, but it actually does help you, right? And I was saying, well, if it's not uncomfortable for you to be a dick to somebody on the ego fight, but it's uncomfortable for you to meditate, right? So you kind of have to be able to take as much as you give. You see, so I was also making that point. So I think if I remember, we had a conversation, and I said, that if you don't meditate, don't do ego fight, right? Because I was concerned that you just liked being cruel, and you didn't want to look at your own cruelty.
It wasn't that. It was just the manifestation of my intensity, and like, I got ugly. I did apologize.
Yeah. I
I
remember.
wish John the best.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. John is doing much better, by the way, and yes, and he's doing much better. It's still very difficult for him, but he's doing much better now.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it was, and I think we had this conversation too. Anyway, it was measured. It was intense, but it wasn't. Let me just go here and be a dick. Yeah, like I had an idea what I was doing, and I made a mistake, but that's
we'll make mistakes.
Do, right?
It's totally fine. Yeah, it's totally fine.
So I don't know. Fine. I guess it was helpful actually to have that doubt, because like I've realized that, well, you put that doubt in me. Well, really, you just made me see what was already there, right? But now I'm firmer, and if I don't want to meditate, well, then I'm just not going to.
You don't want to meditate, just don't meditate. Yeah, you don't have to. Sure. It's your path, it's your life. Who am I to tell you how to live it?
And it seems to be working for me, honestly.
It's great. It's great. Whatever uncovers intensity in you, whatever allows you, to feel everything more deeply, more intensely, it is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting, Artem, it almost comes down to just a lack of communication.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I know you are open for it, but
and that's why text is such a horrible, because you see, like, people don't understand. It's so vital that we understand that, because when you read someone's text, you almost always do it in your own head, in your own voice, with the intonation of your choosing, with the intent of your choosing, and then you think that that's exactly how the person would pronounce it. And also, when you write your own text, oftentimes you write something that you would never pronounce. So I always ask people to call me, and I also offered, like, for example, we would have this back and forth with somebody, very kind of with lots of like animosity and stuff, and then I would say, hey, you know what? Let's call, and now let's just have a call, and let's have our phones like that, and let's just read it to each other. That would have been such an educational experience for somebody, because first they would understand that they would never pronounce this words looking the person in the eye. So that's one level of hypocrisy. And then another thing is they would understand that the other person did not actually pronounce it the way that they pronounced it, or meant pronounced it the way that they took it, or meant the way that they took it. But you see, the text communication is basically almost literally speaking to yourself. It's like the closest thing to speaking to yourself would be speaking to somebody over text, especially speaking to an enlightened master over text. It would be like the closest thing to just completely close off and not see another person and just blah 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 blah, speaking to your own conflicts and insecurities and stuff. Right. Because as soon as there's a real person, as soon as there's a real voice, as soon as there's a face, everything changes, right?
Yeah.
And I think I want more people on Are Awakened to understand that.
Yeah.
You see, because they are speaking to each other, they actually aren't speaking to each other. Right. It would be good for them to speak to each other, to have more video conferences, to have more phone calls. You see, it's even if there are disagreements there, it's still good, So surprisingly, a real life conversation, it's at the same time it is usually externally much more restrained, because people, don't want to, like, they kind of care how they look like, but internally it's oftentimes more tumultuous. It's more difficult.
Yeah.
Which is doubly, effective as practice. So all of these text games, I don't even take it seriously. Just look at the internet. Everybody's vile at each other online. So.
Let me just ask you one more thing, Artem. I think it would be good for me, and maybe I am going to post this. I think this
Okay.
is quite I think this will be quite helpful to
Oh,
people,
great.
actually.
I would be very glad if
Great.
it is
Yep.
perfect.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
So let's see. One thing when I was going kind of following your teachings, which I must say also, since I'm going to post this, were most helpful.
Oh, thank you.
There were things where I had to follow my heart, but it was helpful. Um, one thing I saw was it almost like I have this tendency to be hard on myself, as I'm sure many of us do. But yeah, I
Yes.
have this, and I would almost take that to be like, well, you have to meditate. You need to do this, even though you don't want to. And it was
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very validating of that not good stuff. And one thing that I've read about Osho is he's very much. I learned from you, Artem, to accept the discomfort, and that's been great for me. That really has. But what I got from Osho was that he's like, and this is in Beyond Enlightenment. Go where you feel more bliss and more joy. Can you comment on the distinction?
Yeah.
Like, see what I'm saying?
Uh,
Does it need to be self-flagellation, or how can we accept discomfort, but we're doing it in a loving way that takes us to where we want to go? Because we're not doing this to hurt ourselves, are we?
right. Yes. 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 This is, well, I mean, it is hard for me to comment on exact quote without knowing the context. You see, it's like go there where there is more bliss. He is right.
I can read it for you if you
Yes,
want.
please.
Okay. And your heart never leads you wrong. If you allow it, it will give you clear-cut indications that you're on the right path. Peace, silence, bliss, benediction. All will be coming more and more, and the scope will become wider and wider. And when I read that, I said, yes.
So bliss, silence, love, benediction, all of that, right? It is a space, like you can even say that it is a space in which also all the suffering happens.
Right.
So when suffering happens, it is what covers it temporarily, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, if you try to get there by trying to avoid your suffering, by trying to artificially create this, so you will always miss it, you see? So all you can do is to allow your current experience, and with time, as you work through more and more, this, from just being a part of your experience, it will, from being a small background, will come into the foreground more and more, you see, and that is the calling of the heart, you see. So that your heart calls you to see more of yourself through the discomfort, so that this bliss, silent benediction can take a greater place at your experience, a bigger share of your experience. Yes.
Okay. Yes, that resonates.
Okay.
Use that word. Okay, Artem. Well, yeah. Thank you very much. Well, I guess you win, but
I hope. I mean, I win if
just
you
kidding.
win.
Everybody wins.
Yes, I win
Everybody
if
wins.
you win. Yes.
This was quite productive for me. So
Very good.
thank you.
I'm very
Have a wonderful day, and I will post this for the people of Awaken. Hopefully, they can get something too.
beautiful.
All right, take care, Adam.
Good luck, my friend. I'm very happy, by the way, to speak to you and see that you're doing better and progressing and all of that, and you're enjoying life. That's the enjoy it.
Yeah, you definitely played a part, Artem.
Yes.
You played a part, Artem. Thank you.
Yes. Bye, my friend.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye. Bye. Love you too. Bye. Bye.